Right guys, how are you today?
I'm good, thanks.
Yes. So the first topic we'll discuss is our own experiences using the traditional approach, okay? And we'll start with Cara.
So my experience as a coach is that it's very structured and it's very easy to manage if you have a big group, but the children do get very bored and can act out if they're finding it boring because they want to just play games.
Yeah, Cara, that's a really good point. And then over to Ellie.
I find that with younger, like primary 1s to 2s, it's better if they've never played the sport before, so they get to know the basics of the skills because it's very linear and it's easy to click on with. So, but when it comes to older athletes, I feel as if they generally get bored easy. So yeah.
Nice one, very good point. Andrew, what's your experience?
Well, personally, as taking part in sport and being a player, when doing the practice, it's maybe good for a short period of time at the start of a session, maybe just to get a feel of the ball, get a bit warmed up. As you go on, it gets a bit boring, so it's better to progress into other things rather than keep it going.
Yeah, really good point as well. Adam, final point?
Yeah, exact same. I think it's good for starting the sport. First couple of sessions, learning the basics and then moving on to something else.
Yeah, I agree. Very linear and very repetitive sessions.
So John, what's your personal experience with the traditional approach?
My personal experience is it's good to introduce a skill and improve the right techniques and attributes you'll need to take into a session and into a game like drills. So the first question we will talk about today is, what is traditional coaching, Cara?
So the traditional approach to coaching is a way of teaching the key fundamental skills by breaking it down and teaching it at a beginner level and building it up using progressions. So Harvey et al. 2010 explains that coaching has established this traditional pedagogy and it's characterised by being highly directive or autocratic in nature.
Yeah, Cara, I agree with that. When using this approach, skills are taught at a beginner level, which allows the participant to understand the skill and the correct technique. This approach is found to be very repetitive and linear. The next question we'll discuss is this session athlete or coach centred?
Well, in a study I found from McClellan, Callaway and Young in 2017 said that traditional coaching is a directed coaching pedagogy that views learning as a linear transmission of knowledge passed from the coach to the athlete. So coaches can use things such as demonstrations and instructions when coaching to get across that point in their knowledge to the athletes, giving the athletes very little say, so it's very much coach orientated and much happening.
Yeah, Andrew, this makes it a very automatic session as there's not much thought process for the participant and what they need to do. Quick demonstrations with clear instruction mean there's a lot of doing for the participant, which gives the coach loads of time to observe. Final thing we'll talk about is what kind of practice will take place within the session.
So it's block practices with a rehearsal of a skill practiced over and over, and that aims to improve that basic skill. William and Hodge say that traditional coaching practices are decontextualised from competitive environments, meaning that they are not linked to game-like situations.
Yeah, Adam, this approach should be classed as a constant practice rather than variable practice, as it the practice of one variation of a skill. And now over to energetic Ellie.
So as you can see in this clip of the traditional coaching session, it contains many aspects of what the panel have already discussed. It demonstrates the linear-based practices. It also shows the development of no behavioural skills at all. Also that the athletes have no input at all. It's very coach-centred. As a panel, we believe that the pedagogy has many benefits. It results in quick skill learning and winnings, but the kids get very bored easily. Renshaw et al. 2010 carried out a study and it showed that the traditional approach focuses on developing skill and technique for various things. However, the athletes get very bored quickly and the Asper games.
Thanks, Ellie.
So moving on to constraints-led approach, what are your personal opinions on it, Adam and Andrew?
As a coach, I feel that there's higher levels of enthusiasm, which leads to a more enjoyable class for everyone involved, and it's more active than traditional, as there's no standing about, so it leads to increased participation.
As a player, I enjoyed a constraints-led practice more than a traditional, purely because it gave you that added challenge that could personally push me to improve, and also improve the decision-making speed that I could use in games.
Good, I also agree with those points. So John, what is constraints-led approach?
Elliot, I believe the constraints-led approach is the skill refinement of sport-specific related skills through playing games with conditions and different scoring systems. The constraints-led approach is a way of implicit learning, which means that the approach is learning through guidance rather than instruction. Clement et al. 2012 said, the constraints-led approach is a theoretical perspective that aims to understand the acquisition of and coordination patterns in sport.
Interesting. So, Carol, is constraints-led approach coach-centred or athlete-centred, and what practices take place?
The constraints-led approach is athlete-centred. Light and Harvey 2017 suggests that the coach's decisions are revolved around the learner's needs. By the coach manipulating the constraints, it influences the learner's outcomes and actions to better their performance. The constraints-led session would be a variable practice session, which means it would focus on several variations of a skill at a time. Renshaw 2012 believes the variability should be seen as a benefit factor. A constraints-led session is a random practice of a variety of skills in a random manner, which leads to long-term retention. This encourages learners to actively problem solve and discover different solutions, which are very important for the learner's learning opportunities. This was suggested by Williams and Hodge 2005.
So, as a panel, would we be more likely to use a constraints-led approach over a traditional, or traditional over constraints-led?
I think the constraints-led, because it's more active for the participants, and traditional becomes a bit boring after a while, so I'll definitely go for constraints-led from me.
I find that the constraints-led usually gives them like a target to aim for, whether it be that they get more points for certain goals or things. It just encourages them to try a bit harder.
I also agree that it's a bit more game related, so it works in the game practice that can then be transferred into competitive situations.
Yeah, I choose both. Start with traditional and then move on to constraints and use the skills learned from traditional to improve constraints of the coaching.
The topic we're going to focus on now is TGFU, which is another pedagogical approach to coaching. What is everyone's personal experiences with TGFU?
So, my experience with teaching games for understanding is very positive. Not only do the kids have fun, but they're also learning through the game process, so they're not bored standing doing linear based practices like they do in traditional, and yeah, they're just getting to do what they came along to the practice for, to play games and have fun, but at the same time they don't know it maybe, but they're also learning the skills that are fundamental for the sport.
That's a great detailed point.
As a player, to take part in DGFU, I found it to be quite fun and enjoyable, whereas traditional can be boring. As well as this, as Ellie says, you don't actually realise it, but as a player you're improving different skills you might not actually get to improve in other practices, which is really good in the long run if you want to improve.
As a player as well, I found that I remember really starting to understand my sport after I was playing games, and it then led me to better my skills rather than just standing very linear, passing a ball or shooting. So yeah, that's how it helped me as a player.
I remember as a player that I felt quite independent. I was able to make my own decisions and work out different game situations by myself without any coach getting involved.
Some great detailed points there, guys. I like it. So we'll move more into the topic.
So, since our main focus of this pedagogical approach video is teaching games for understanding, what actually is TGFU, John?
Teaching games for understanding is the original work of Bunker and Thorpe in 1982, and is an approach used to teach games by playing the game in its simplest form. TGFU is a game and learner-centred model to learning games, and that was from Tan et al. 2012. The approach focuses on the player game and not skill refinement. This approach is also very game-like, which helps to transfer a variety of skills into a full pressure game.
So what is the purpose of TGFU?
So it was observed that the sessions were dominated by developing technique within very structured lessons. So Bunker and Thorpe decided that they were going to include gameplay because they saw that when gameplay was included in sessions, coaches really connected the technique practices with how and when they should be used in a game. So Kirk and McPhail 2002 said that the TGFU approach was to teach games and coach players to learn tactics, strategies of gameplay while still developing the learner's technique. So Andy, is this practice athlete or coach centred, and what kind of practices take place within it?
I'd say TGFU is athlete centred because it usually starts with a modified game that introduces the students to a key concept that can be used in a competitive game environment. That's from Madigo and Ludec in 2019. This means that different adaptations can be utilised by the coach, and then this allows that they can then be allowed to meet the athletes' different abilities and needs, so it's more specific to them. A study by Griffin, Mitchell and Oslin in 1997 showed that TGFU sessions focus on three essential components: game form, tactical awareness and skill execution. So that's what mainly the practices are focused around, so they can be applied to more competitive game situations.
Good point, I like that.
So now we're going to talk about the advantages and disadvantages of TGFU. So Ellie, what would you say are the advantages?
So an advantage for teaching games for understanding that I'd say is that athletes are able to transfer their problem solving skills into the games from the practices. It allows them to develop not only skill-based techniques but decision making and problem solving to put into a game-like situation. A study conducted by Oslin and Mitchell in 2006 highlighted that evidence to date supported that the use of teaching games for understanding actually assists the skill execution within games and tactical transfer between training and games. As well as this, it helps the motivation amongst athletes and improves the athletes' decision skills when playing the games and improves overall performance.
A disadvantage that I found was that it requires a knowledgeable coach or teacher. Darryl Dix found that teachers require a deep structure of games. They need to know the rules of the activity and the relationships among them for it to be a successful session.
From this module we had a good knowledge of how the limitations and the strengths of each of the pedagogies. So when we went into the placement we had a good experience and we had good examples of how to use each of them and the benefits we should see from them. In our placement we saw a lot of these benefits with, for instance, the traditional, we saw some of the kids starting to get bored and things, and with teaching games for understanding there was a lot higher participation levels and they seemed to be enjoying it a lot more.
One of the things we struggled with in our placement at Holmston was the fact that we had a few additional support needs within the group, but we didn't really understand how to handle some situations when they started to act out, but the classroom assistants and the teachers just kind of sat back and didn't give us much communication on how to handle it, but on our half we should have asked more questions as well. So next time, if we ever go back out to a school and it has additional support needs, we should find out more information and ask how to handle their behaviour.
Through discussions with the participants and the people watching from outside, we found out that the favourite was teaching games for understanding because it was very inclusive for everyone, and from the outside in it looked very busy, which is good and what you want to see for teaching games for understanding. The teacher already knew about teaching games for understanding, but she got some ideas from it so she can use in her sessions, which she said she would do. So it shows that we've kind of taught not just the kids but the teacher as well.
As well as that, we also found that with having limited time to teach the skills of handball that we done, it wasn't really enough time to do it. So if in future we would like to maybe have a bit more time just to kind of learn the skills, which improve the quality of the games and can help the kids have more fun when they're taking part as well.
We also found the hall was too small for what we wanted to do, and maybe it was in a different time of year, we'd be able to go outside and make it a better experience for all involved.
At the end of our fourth week, we decided to interview the kids and the teachers to get some more feedback and evaluation on our overall performance throughout the placement. So here's some clips. Which week did you prefer, the traditional approach, teaching games for understanding, or constraint-led?
I liked the games for understanding. I thought it was really hands-on. The kids then were learning the skills whilst they were playing the games, which I felt was really beneficial. It means then that they're transferable. They know that when they play this game next time that they know the rules that are there already.
Would you use teaching games for understanding or any of the other approaches in your sessions?
Yeah, I would. Just now I've been doing dodgeball, so we've been doing the rules through the games of dodgeball, so I've been using what you've been teaching them already. Certainly with other sports and things, I know netball's coming up, so I'd probably use them in that sense as well.
Would you like to have us coaches back in the future?
Yes, please, so much. It's such a good help, because like I like physical education and things, but just to know that the way that you're teaching it and things and the skills and how you approach it is really, really handy for myself.
Thank you very much.
Handball before?
No.
Why?
Because I'm the only child in my family, so I didn't really have anyone to play with or, the equipment.
Okay. Did you know about the sport handball before we came in?
I think so.
Yeah. Would you see if there was a club round about your area? Would you go to the club?
Probably.
Yeah.
Had you ever played handball before?
Yeah, no.
Why?
I don't know.
Did you know it was a sport before?
Yeah.
Yeah, you did know it. Were you interested in ever playing it?
No, not really.
No, not really. But did you enjoy playing it once you knew what it was all about? Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Have you enjoyed the handball sessions?
Yeah.
Why have you enjoyed them?
Because it's fun.
What about them was fun?
Playing the games.
Playing the games? Anything else at all? No? Did you like passing?
Yeah.
Shooting?
Yeah.
Defending? But you like the games most of them? Would you have the coaches here back in future?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why would you have us back?
Because it's fun.
Because it's fun? Yeah.
Thanks.
Have you enjoyed doing handball? Why have you enjoyed it?
I've learned a lot from it.
What have you learned?
This is a sport.
You didn't know? Did you not know it was a sport before we came in? No. Would you go play it again if there was a club? Yeah. Okay. Why would you go play it again? What did you like about it? The passing, the shooting, everything. Yeah.
Would you have us coaches back? Yeah. Why would you have us back?
Because you're fun.
Thank you very much.